Hannah Flores, 35, worked as a freelance house painter in suburban Missouri, her face perpetually speckled with paint flecks. She dressed simply in faded jeans and worn-out sneakers that had seen countless job sites. The canvas jacket she wore year-round bore the marks of every color she'd ever worked. With every weekend, Hannah visited the local bank to deposit her modest savings, usually earnings from painting someone's garage fence or spare room. $20 here, 50. They're small amounts that represented honest work. The bank employees recognized her face but never remembered her name. She was just another background character in their busy days, the quiet painter woman who never complained about waiting in line that Saturday morning. Hannah entered the bank, carrying a paper bag sealed with packing tape. She approached the counter and requested to withdraw exactly $500. "I need it in 20s and 10s, please," she said softly, sliding her ID across the counter. The well-dressed man in line beside her smirked. "People like you must have hit the jackpot. Carrying that kind of cash." Hannah didn't respond, just kept her eyes forward as the teller processed her request. A young bank employee whispered to her, "Colleague, probably not clean money. Look at her." The teller, Emily, noticed Hannah's hands calloused with white paint embedded beneath her fingernails, unlike her coworkers. Emily felt a twinge of shame at their judgment. "Here's your withdrawal, Miss Flores," she said, counting out the bills. Hannah nodded, carefully placing the money in her worn paper bag. Then, almost as an afterthought, she slid a small folded note across the counter. "Could you please make sure this gets to the right person?" she asked quietly. Before Emily could ask questions, Hannah turned and walked away, not bothering to take her receipt. Curious, Emily unfolded the note, planning to file it away when the first line caught her attention. "Urgent, if anyone from Unit 27B survived, please fax. Emergency code 093-A." To the number below was a military regional office. Fax number and a simple signature, HF. Emily's heart raced. Concerned, this might be a legitimate military emergency. She immediately sent the faxes instructed. Exactly 12 minutes later, a black SUV, with military plates, pulled up outside, followed by two more vehicles. A team in civilian clothes, but with unmistakable military bearing, entered the bank, carrying an official lockdown order from the Northern Command Post. Customers began murmuring nervously, some reaching for their phones. "Is this a robbery?" someone whispered. "Are we in danger?" asked another, but the commanding officer who stepped from the lead vehicle wasn't scowling or shouting orders. Instead, he was smiling with what looked like relief. "Have you ever been judged just by your appearance, right? Been there. We share stories like this where outward appearances are mocked, but inside lies tremendous kindness. If you believe these stories matter, stay with us." The man who emerged from the command vehicle was Major Gregory Hunt. Dressed in civilian clothes, but wearing a special operations badge on his jacket. He walked directly into the bank, placed an envelope on the counter, and asked calmly, "Who sent a fax from here?" "This morning." Emily raised her hand hesitantly. "I did. But we were just following the instructions on the note." The major nodded, his expression softening. "And the sender is someone we've owed our gratitude to for nearly a decade." The bank fell silent. Customers and staff exchanged confused glances. A young boy tugged his mother's sleeve and asked loudly, "Who is she?" Major Hunt turned to address everyone. "She's the woman who saved a unit of 27 soldiers with a can of white paint." He explained that 9 years ago, during a training exercise gone wrong due to incorrect coordinates, a special operations team became disoriented and trapped in a civilian zone near a chemical plant. Communications were jammed, and toxic gas had begun leaking from a damaged section of the facility. "We had no night vision equipment, no gas mask, and no way to call for extraction." Hunt recalled, his voice growing quiet with the memory. "The fog was so thick we couldn't see 3 feet ahead. We were essentially blind, moving toward what we later learned was a containment area with lethal concentration levels." Hannah, then working as a painter at a nearby construction site, had noticed the lost soldiers without hesitation. She used her white paint to mark a safe path away from the danger zone, creating directional arrows and warning marks that led the entire unit to safety. "She never identified herself," Hunt continued, "never came forward for recognition. We attempted to locate her through various channels, but she disappeared after that. That night the only thing we knew was that she worked for a painting contractor, and her first name might have been Hannah." Emily recalled the paint-stained hands so that note today. Hunt nodded. It was her way of checking on us, after all these years. He opened the envelope he'd brought, revealing the original note that had been faxed to headquarters below. Hannah's message was her simple question. I don't need thanks. I just want to know, are you all still alive? The bank manager, who had been listening intently, asked why would she check now. After so many years, Hunt's expression grew somber. Today marks exactly 9 years since that incident, and yesterday, false reports circulated on a veterans forum claiming that several members of an unnamed special operations unit had died from long-term effects of chemical exposure during a training exercise. Eyes. Security camera image of Hannah withdrawing money appeared on Hunt's tablet. We've been trying to locate her for years to thank her properly. When this note arrived, it confirmed what we'd suspected, but couldn't prove she was the painter who saved 27 lives that night. Hunt pointed to the paper bag Hannah had carried. That's why she withdrew. Exactly $500 according to our intelligence. That's the monthly amount she anonymously sends to the widow of the only soldier who suffered permanent injuries. That night Emily's eyes widened in shock. She's been sending money to a family she doesn't even know for 9 every month without fail. Hunt confirmed, never revealing her identity, never seeking recognition. The same well-dressed man who had mocked Hannah earlier sank into a chair, visibly ashamed. Major Hunt checked his phone as it buzzed with an incoming message. They've located her. She's heading to Riverside Nursing Home. His voice softened to pay her mother's medical bills with the money. She just withdrew. Major Hunt made a call on speakerphone, in front of everyone gathered in the bank. Sir, we've confirmed it's her. The paint woman from Operation Nightfall. 15 minutes later, another military vehicle arrived. From it emerged a distinguished older man, with silver hair and a slight limp. Colonel James Mercer, the former commander of the unit now retired. When shown the security footage of Hannah withdrawing money, crumbled he removed, his glasses wiping away unexpected tears. That's her, he whispered, the woman who painted white arrows that night, who saved my entire team from walking into a death zone. The bank fell completely silent. We had gone nearly 2 miles in the wrong direction. Oh, Colonel Mercer explained, his voice steadying. Communications were jammed. Oh, and we had no idea we were heading straight toward a ruptured chemical storage tank. The fog was so thick we couldn't see the warning signs. He described how they had suddenly noticed white arrows appearing on the ground ahead of them, painted in real time by someone they couldn't see in the darkness. Those arrows led us away from the danger and toward an extraction point by the time we reached safety. And the fog cleared enough to look back. Whoever had painted them was gone. At the colonel's signal, 2 soldiers, carried in a small wooden box. Inside was a carefully folded American flag in the traditional triangle shape, along with an engraved plaque that read Hannah Florence, Civilian Rescue Unit Special Code 093-A. This recognition was approved years ago, Colonel Mercer said, but we could never locate her to present it. They couldn't give the honor directly to Hannah because she wasn't there. She had left immediately after withdrawing the money, heading to the nursing home where her mother awaited admission, dependent on that exact $500 payment to secure her place. The security camera image of Hannah, standing outside the bank with her paper bag, unaware she was being photographed, was shared millions of times within hours, with the hashtag number 500 for honor. 500 for honor. Countless veterans began sharing their own stories of being silently helped by strangers, whose names they never learned. Emily, the teller, who had served Hannah, revealed something else. She comes here every month, always withdrawing the exact same amount, always on the 15th, always without complaint. When we're short-staffed and the lines are long, the bank's records confirmed it. For 9, Hannah had withdrawn $500 monthly, exactly matching the anonymous donations received by Sergeant Kevin Miller's widow. Miller had survived the chemical exposure, but suffered permanent lung damage, passing away. 3 years later, a week after the bank incident, Hannah received an invitation from the Pentagon. Her handwritten response was simple but profound. Please save that honor for those who returned home, and for those who couldn't return at all. What I did required only paint. What they did required courage. Beyond measure, her letter was displayed at the National Defense Museum, alongside a photograph of her washing her hands, beside a can of white paint. An image recovered from the construction site's security camera from 9 years earlier. Colonel Mercer, addressing reporters outside the bank, summed up what many were feeling. Sometimes the greatest heroes are the ones who walk away, without waiting for thanks, the ones who help simply because they can then disappear, before anyone can make them feel special, for doing what they consider ordinary. The media tried extensively to interview Hannah, but she declined all requests, asking only that any attention be redirected to veteran support organizations. When a persistent reporter finally caught up with her, at a painting job, her only comment was, "I'm just someone who happened to have paint. When paint was needed, that doesn't make me special. It just made me useful at the right moment." Who silently saved you from something terrible? Once write their name, or just leave a single dot. Hannah never returned to that bank branch. But one morning, every employee received a small package. Inside was a miniature can of white paint, and a note that read, "Let each person have a chance to be seen as good." No one mentioned the incident again within the bank's walls. Yet, something fundamental had changed. The employees who had once judged her now kept a photo of Hannah at the teller stations, not publicly displayed, but as a private reminder. Each month the bank quietly allocated funds to a new foundation, simply called HF. An anonymous donor became the top contributor to a fund, supporting veterans' families, particularly those affected by training accidents that never made the news in the community. Hannah continued painting. Houses continued walking home with her supplies, continued carrying her old paper bag. But now, when people passed her on the street, there were no more smirks or dismissive glances. Instead, they nodded respectfully. Some even stopped to shake her paint stained hand. The well-dressed man, who had mocked her that day, sought her out at a job site, apologizing with tears in his eyes. His own son, he revealed, had just enlisted. Hannah simply handed him a business card with a phone number written on the back. "If he ever needs anything at all. This line goes directly to Major Hunt," she said. "Tell him Hannah sent you." The nursing home, where Hannah's mother stayed, received an anonymous donation covering 5 years of care. When Hannah arrived to make her monthly payment, the administrator simply handed her back her check. "It's been taken care of." She was told. Hannah understood. She took the $500 and used it instead to buy art supplies for the Veterans Rehabilitation Center across town. On the anniversary of that fateful night, Hannah found 27 cans of white paint stacked neatly on her front porch. No note was necessary. She used that paint to create a simple memorial wall at the local VFW hall, not depicting soldiers or battles, but 27 white arrows pointing upward toward the sky. When asked what it represented, she only said direction, when direction is needed. Sometimes greatness doesn't come from grand gestures, but from quietly placing a note on a counter and walking away. Hannah didn't withdraw money to show off. She was simply keeping a promise made 9 years earlier, and the ending wasn't about military vehicles, but about how people's eyes change when they looked at her. If you've ever helped someone without recognition, have faith. There will come a time when that very silence makes the world stand up and take notice. Truest heroes aren't seeking applause. They're too busy looking for the next person who needs an air. Pointing the way home, she pulled the $500 bill from the counter, hands still stained with paint. The man beside her chuckled. Withdrawing like that must have won the lottery. No one noticed the old paper bag she carried, or the cautious glance from the security. 3 minutes later, military vehicles appeared locking down the entire parking lot. Who was this ordinary-looking woman, and why did her simple transaction trigger a military response?